Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another proRevenge Reddit video. In our first story, client tries to screw me by locking me out of my own system. Let's jump right in. Since so many people assume this happened in the States, I just wanted to say that I'm from a small country in Europe. The laws and regulations here are different than in the United States. We have a government agency here that has everything to do with registering companies, and they do keep track of who's who. If you are a serial startup guy who leaves nothing but burnt ashes behind you, you cannot do it here. You have to register the owner and members of the board of the company if there is one. If you have a prior history of failed companies or you've broken the law in some regard, you are blacklisted at that establishment. This is my first post, so be gentle with me. I've worked as an independent contractor in the IT field for over 20 years, doing all manner of things, from creating simple HTML sites to managing a big hotel's complete IT infrastructure. One of the many clients I had back in the day I was coding biggish custom websites was a rental company. Now, I had heard a lot of warnings about not working with this particular guy that owned it. He had a reputation that he was sharp as a tack, backstabbing, and conniving. He was a lawyer after all. So I went into the partnership with that in mind. He wanted a new website for his renting gig, where people would list their home for rent, renters would sign up and pay a subscription to the site, and he would get the whole lot. Nothing out of the ordinary there. So we make a pretty good deal on paper, we sign it, and I get started on the project. Coding everything in PHP goes well, but he suddenly demands that I show him progress only a week into the project. He wants to see the website front now. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I tried to explain to him that the front end work isn't scheduled to start until after 6 weeks of back-end programming and that I only had pure code to show right now. The contract we signed clearly states this. He then gets on his high horse and demands that I put everything on hold to do the front end first, design, and then program. I, being really young at the time and fairly naive, agreed to do this without asking for it to be added to the contract as an addendum and start working on the design immediately. Now, the contract stated that I was given free reign of the design decisions as long as I maintained the same color scheme and used the same logo on the site. So I make a fast draft in Fireworks. This was back when it was a Macromedia product before the Adobe acquisition, and within 2 days I show him. He's not impressed with my first draft. He demands we go in a different direction and puts together a list of demands for me. I, as always, aim to please the customer, and so I just do what he wants. I design a new layout following his list of demands, but when I present that draft to him, he doesn't like that one either. That is how the next 3 months go. A never-ending cycle where he makes endless demands and is never happy with anything, no matter how closely I follow what he asks for. Now we are close to 4 months into the project, and he demands to see a working showcase of the back end. I point out that he himself changed the order in how the project was being done. He had demanded that I do the front-end design first instead of the back-end as stated in the contract. He now turns on me and says, "Yes, but the contract we both signed says you will have a working back-end to show me at the end of the month. If you don't honor that, I will have to take my business elsewhere and seek compensation from you for your lack of professionalism." Okay, I now have 12 days to completely create a back-end for the site. So I get a friend to help me and we work tirelessly through a weekend and I have a good base to work from in 9 days. Mind you, at this point he has only paid the security on the contract, about 5% of the total price, and has shielded himself from paying by hiding behind, "Well, if you can't honor the contract, why should I? Finish this work and then I'll pay as per the contract." Remembering now all the warnings I had heard about this guy and seeing how things have not gone my way so far, I decide to add a special function into the code just to protect myself. Now it's the end of the month. We have a front-end design he is okay with. We have a back-end that has been finished to about 85% of what is required according to the contract, and I still have 1 month left to finish everything else. It is time for show and tell. Since I was working on this development, I was running it on my own dev server, and so I showed him this in a browser on his computer. I mentioned to him that since I only had 512 kilobits per second upstream from the server, it might lag a little, but it wouldn't when it was installed on the professional server he has his website on at his hosting company. He says that's okay, and the demonstration goes ahead. As I'm showing him the site, both the front end and the back end, I can see he's immensely happy with it, although he would never say so out loud. He is trying to hide his smile, which keeps popping up, and his eyes gleam with all the added ways he can now start making money from it. Anyway, despite how obviously happy he is with it, he now says that it's way too slow, this is wrong, that is wrong, blah blah blah. I want you to put it on my production server, and so that we can test how the speed is. Okay, that's no problem. I can make that happen, but before that, please pay me 50% of the contracted price, then I'll get right on it. He agrees to send me the money. I wait a few days and then I get an email from him where he includes a forwarded message from the bank detailing a transaction from him to me in the amount of 50% of the cost of the project. As soon as I get that, I push the system to his production server so he can take a look at it under beta.hisdomain.tld. I then send him an email stating that he can try the system with the supplied credentials. What he doesn't know is that I knew he had been fishing around for another programmer to do this project to pick up from a lazy deadbeat who couldn't do anything right, so I had a strong suspicion that he would most likely try to screw me. What I also suspected was that the email he sent me with the transaction proof was a fake, which it ended up being. proRevenge number 1. Remember that small function I mentioned? Well, what it did was if user X, his user, tries to remove user Y, my admin, from the system without one setting being changed in the config first, the system will first delete and then purge the entire database and then remove all the documents in the web root. Well, not 5 minutes after he reads the email from me, he does just that. He tries to delete my admin user from the system to lock me out. Guess who has nothing of the project left? He does. proRevenge number 2. Since it is considered forgery to spoof an email, especially from a bank, I sent the information to the authorities. This caused him to be investigated by both the police and the bank's lawyers. proRevenge number 3. The system that I built was really quite good work. I didn't want to see it go to waste, so I sold the system to a competitor of his for more money than I made in the original contract to him. The last thing I heard was that this jerk was now blacklisted from owning a company in our country. He also lost his right to work as a lawyer. I only ever got that 5% of the contract that he paid at the very beginning. Having worked for over 5 months on this project, that is hardly anything. But the satisfaction of his downfall will keep my heart warm for the rest of my life. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and make sure you click on the notifications bell so that YouTube will actually show you my videos. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.